pleasure to have you here. I'm going to start with Abodh. I know I keep seeing all these Facebook posts of yours, with dogs and cats. And so how long have you really been, were you always an animal lover, or did some incident change you when you became an animal lover?
So basically there were two things. One, I think, yeah. So basically as a kid, I grew up with animals because my mother was a huge dog lover, and in fact an Indie, that time they were not called Indies, are Desi dogs. And in fact she had a dog called, he used to actually, she used to stay at Vidyavihar station near Ghatkopar, and this dog called Damya, he was named after one yesteryear actor called Damu Anna Malvankar, because he was cross-eyed, and Damya also was cross-eyed. And he used to go and try and, when she used to go to college, she used to try and go and jump into the local to go with her to college, So that was there. And even not only dogs, my grandfather, when my father was young and his siblings, they used to have about 11, 12 cats at home. So I grew up, with that kind of a background. And I used to always take neighborhood animals to the vet, thanks to a neighbor who used to love animals, and also go and rescue dogs from the killing pound, because that time street dogs used to be killed. So I think that was the journey. But what really changed was that when I was in college, I remember there was a puppy that had a wound, and the only thing I could do was either take it to a vet or admit it to the hospital. And I did that, and I forgot all about it. And about 15 days later, the hospital called and said that, the puppy is ready. And in fact, they sent it home. And when I went back home from college, I saw that the puppy was, in a very bad shape, almost dying. And then I thought to myself that it was not, it had caught an infection in the hospital, couldn't blame them. And I said that if it was a small wound, I wouldn't have got admitted to hospital myself. So that's when I trained under a vet and started what is today known as an on-site first aid program. So that was the journey.
Why is there only one mic here? Okay, anyway.
There's a mic up there.
No problem. Can you just... Bas got to bus. To tena de. Yeah. And I will give her this one. I don't know why there's not another mic here. Yeah, so that sounds great. It's the perfect changeover story. Every one of us has probably met one such dog or cat who's changed us. What about you, Antoine? I know that, you've had many dogs, you've rescued many dogs, you're associated with the WSD. What really brought you onto this path?
I think
On? Yeah.
Yeah, I think from the time that I was a child, I pestered my parents for a dog, and both my parents were actually dog lovers, but my mom had lost one of her favorite dogs, and after that she said she didn't want any more animals, dogs and cats. And then finally one day she just gave in, and then that was where it started. And then, I think now it's about 40 years since I've been I've had stray dogs, and I've only kept strays and rescues. I've never kept any pedigree dogs, because I think stray dogs are fabulous, and a dog is a dog. It loves you no matter what the pedigree is. But I think a couple of years ago, I went under a slight shift from just adopting strays to adopting injured strays. And it happened because one of the dogs that we saw at one of the shelters, which was a place called Pals, which was run by Dr. Silu, was a three-legged dog with the most beautiful eyes. And we decided to take her, not knowing that though she looked extremely gentle, and with humans she was absolutely wonderful, with other dogs she was a complete terror. She was the worst bully that you could possibly imagine. She was like the top dog in that sense. Every other dog that she came across, she had to have a fight with and bully. So it became a little difficult, but it was actually quite easy to handle her. And since then, I've only been adopting injured or stray dogs. So currently, I have a dog with one eye and the other one, which is recovered from an acid attack. And both dogs actually are from Abodh's WSD.
I must add that, I mean, it's sad that we don't get so many people who will come and say, and I remember Antoine said, give me a dog that either has, I mean, some issue, a disability, you know. In fact, he was on, we come out with a calendar every year, and his dogs are on that calendar. These were dogs which are adopted from us. And I think it's just amazing how, I mean, people like Antoine who would come and say that, you know, give me a dog that otherwise will not get adopted.
That's right.
You know, so that's really, really
No, that's
just
really amazing and very big-hearted of you, and you're such a savior for all these people because no one will adopt these dogs. They only want cute little pups who, when they grow up, they'll probably abandon. You know, Roxanne, what do I say about you? Probably Paradise Shelter. First, number one, why probably Paradise? Because any dog who gets a shelter is in paradise, I would say.
You have to be dead for that.
Yeah, true. But so tell me, how did this come about? And it's amazing.
Paradise.
That, as well as why did you come and why did you have this shelter in the first place? Because I think it's like you have 500 animals there.
Around, yeah, 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I can't even imagine looking after all this. I look after about 25 dogs and I'm exhausted.
Once
So
you've done a husband and 2 boys, go on.
everything else is okay, yes. But yeah. Let's hear your story, Roxanne.
Well, let's be frank. Probably Paradise also freaks out the postman. You know, in Marathi trying to say probably Paradise, so maybe there was a sadistic element in it. People came up with at last, home at last, all sorts of them. I'm going, no. And then we had the event, the agency saying, no, probably Paradise is very negative. It's not quite paradise. I said, no, but one has to be dead for paradise and 72 virgins and all that rubbish. And they don't say how old the virgins are. And I guess I'm the person who takes those old animals, and that's how we started. And it's been a way of life, like Abodh. You grew up with it. It was taken quite as norm that one grew up with animals. My poor parents used to try desperately inviting children home from class and play with Shirin, play with Dinaz, play with, and I would say yes, fine, and walk off and play with a kitten. Maybe lack of communication with humans, I don't know. Don't have to repeat yourself continually. Oh yeah, I guess you do with animals, like piss off, piss off, piss off. Yeah, I guess. But anyway, I've got this little piece of land, it's not large. And I'm just trying to visualize if I'd set up cottages and had elderly humans, it would have been very much an arsenic on old age situation, no? So, animals are more fun. Don't you guys find it fun?
Oh, definitely.
You always wake up with a smile on your face. It's not like, oh my God, hubby's in a bad mood. You know, tiptoe through the room, you know.
Yeah, I think the worst that you can wake up with a dog is that you get up and go to pee and come back and the dog's stolen your sheets.
That's normal. That's normal. But it keeps good exercise, no? Mine, you know.
And I think also, you know, what you learn from dogs is just amazing in terms of one thing that I've learned is the absence of self-pity, where humans you know, keep pitying ourselves for everything, what's happened to me. And dogs and I mean animals also, they don't wallop in their self-pity. Dogs like what he has adopted, you know, without an eye. I remember the other dog, Sakshi, was an acid victim and she had acid thrown all over her body. But just in that also, she was still, you know, a brightly, you know, self. I mean, she didn't, I mean, a human being would have lost all trust, you know, of any other human being. But this one still trusted, and I mean, ask him how loving she is. So it's like just amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. This Gattu you saw was actually hit by a human being on the back so hard that his spine got a bend and he lost the use of his hind legs. And we sent him to the vet to rescue, and they said, put him to sleep. He's never going to recover. But anyway, we brought him home and took care of him and he started walking, but now he can't live on the streets, so we've adopted him. But he's still just as trusting of humans.
He was wagging his tail.
Yeah, I mean, he just meets, he doesn't feel that somebody hit me, so now I'm going to be, I'm going to be distrustful of human beings.
but
And
that's-
that's the biggest quality, I think.
But that's why you have fun when you go into places. I mean, banks, shops. Don't bring the dog in. Why not? He might bite, you might rape. No, humne kata. So who said he was going to do it? You know? No, you remove the dog. I said, okay, I am very scared. No, madam, I'm both darta, so fine. I am scared of men. Remove all the men. From the shop, from the bank. And I have a very gentle, dulcet voice, as you might have noticed. I'm not shouting. I just get heard in the last row. And then I love it, like, don't allow dogs in. So I had a donkey who used to come into the bank. And she had a thing about written sheets. So written sheets were good to chew on, blank sheets were not good to chew on. And you never see so many people sort of leap over their desks, lie on their desks, days before computer, And she would sort of work her way through and they would say, madam, take the donkey out. I said, there's no sign, no donkeys allowed. Donkeys are allowed in here. Otherwise, 75% of you can't come to work. I said, give me my check and I'm gone. So I used to lay bets with people. I'll be out in 5 minutes. Nay, madam. Aadha ganta. No, I'll be out in 5 minutes. And then I used to get my money and I was gone, So it's handy. Keep a donkey.
That's amazing. So, Antoine, I know that Chloe, of course, features in the Dog Train of Peace, and now you have this blind dog, and it is a lot of work. When you have a normal dog, it is work. But when you have an unwell dog or a handicapped, whatever, or a disabled dog, it is more work. How do you manage your time between your traveling, all that multiple tasting at different hotels, and how do you do that? Who looks after the dogs, and how do you balance your time between dogs and you?
His wife does it.
No, I'm single, so. Oh.
Well, I did not ask because I knew he was single, so. Girlfriend?
We'll talk about that later, Roxanne. Well, actually, Manjiri, you are quite wrong. There is absolutely no difference between taking care of a healthy dog and an injured dog. And that's the reason why I've continued to take care, to adopt this thing. It's exactly the same. And just to add on to the point that Abodh raised about self-pity, with Chloe, with the 3 legs, you'd have people passing by saying, oh, poor dog, bichari, and all of that. And I would think to myself, my God, you try and handle this dog. This dog is full of energy and vigor. She does not see, and dogs do not see themselves as incomplete if they have parts missing or whatever. They just see themselves as whole. It's we who see them as being lesser than or whatever it is. But they see themselves as complete creatures. Their character does not change one bit. Sandy with her one eye is still like dominant, she's aggressive, she's exactly like any normal dog. And Sakshi, after the acid, everything, she's far more sociable than I am, frankly. So makes no difference at all. And it's not difficult to handle them. Sakshi actually came during the pandemic, so she has a lot of separation anxiety, and that is becoming a little difficult to handle. But other than that, no issues at all. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think people should actually adopt disabled dogs. It's no difference.
Yeah.
And I think, actually Antoine is not very happy because everybody says, poor dog, no girl has been saying poor Antoine. That's why.
I think kind men are so attractive. Unfortunately, it's of no use to you. But there are women, I'm sure, who feel that kind
This discussion
men
is
are
going in a
attractive.
completely different side.
No, me saying is
It's an
old trick. Yeah.
When I used to live in Ooty, we had above, going up the road, a Swiss Merit Hotel Management School, where parents paid a frigging fortune to keep their misbehaving kids on top of a hill, teach them cooking, teach them hotel management. I kept saying to the parents, they're still going to end up peeling potatoes in some kitchen. Nobody's going to hire them as a manager. I think they paid 8 lakhs a year in those days. Anyway, but one very sort of cuddly teddy bear guy used to turn up and say, can I take a dog for a walk? And he'd take a dog from the shelter, go for a walk. And damn me, if all the girls went to him, so like, oh, how's he? Oh, I'm scared, can I clutch you, please? And the other boys in college couldn't understand why he was so popular, during the rest of the week, So I was nasty. When I moved back to Maharashtra, I called up his mom, and she went, yes, he finally got a girl, he got married, But you always say, take a dog with you, you get all the girls that way, Yeah, it's known as we've all confirmed, dogs don't know the word handicapped. But they will misuse it, I have one we call a Veronica. I'm sure we're all familiar with Archie comics, why she's called Veronica. Very pretty and as evil as they walk, We have ponies and horses with broken legs and whatever, but they do their own thing and they get on with it. And I have people who come and film a lot, and they say, there is such an amount of energy and joy at your place. They love harassing visitors, jump on them, make sure, if somebody like this walked in, she doesn't have a chance, All 200 dogs would like to jump on a white outfit, And then people go and say, oh, I did a film at an old person's home. Oh my God, he says, it was so depressing, I can't even use their voices as a voiceover. And they moan and groan, and their family has dumped them and run off with their money and cheated them. And then our filmmaker was very upset with me when I turned around and says, what did you teach them? Why is your son cheating you? He's obviously learnt it from you. So did you cheat people? And then they start crying, and we say, get out, you're upsetting them, But this is it. If this is what you teach, this is how you get treated. And this is what people don't believe, that whether you are spiritual and say, I believe in karma, or you're scientific and call it physics, but what goes around comes around. Whether you have water that is ice, that is steam, or you be nasty, it comes back to you.
Do you believe that? Do you believe in karma?
No.
Do you believe that if you do something bad, bad things will come back to you, and if you do something good, good things will happen to you?
No, not necessarily.
No? What about you?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think. I think it just depends on what you do in life. When I got, I was in the corporate world. I started volunteering with WSD. The same vet that he mentioned, Dr. Silu, just amazing person. I trained under her when I was volunteering, and then I used to work in the corporate world, and I said that this is what I want to do. But there was no martyrdom. There wasn't saying, oh, I want to do this. Yeah. And I think it's your calling. So I always feel that I don't know about karma and all that, but I think it's just that maybe you were meant to do that because you like to do that. Somebody likes to make money. Somebody likes to follow their passion of various hobbies, sport and so on. I wanted to do this, and this is what one does. So,
But over the years, there was a time in my life when I used to get very affected with the plight of dogs. So much so that I stopped eating, and I used to see only sick dogs on the road, and it became, I used to go to Shivaji Nagar, which is about 10 kilometers from my house, and feed dogs there. It was at 12 in the night, and I used to drag my husband, and it became such a odd situation that I couldn't live. Yeah. Life was over for me. It was only dogs. And then I kind of brought myself back from that edge, and then taught myself that I'm not God. I can't control and protect every dog, and I have to now change myself, literally. And then I detached myself, and now I do what I can do, and I'm happy with that. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever felt so frustrated because you couldn't help every dog, or has it taken over your life, because it had taken over my life and I had to bring myself back. Has this taken over your life ever?
Luckily not, because I think, you know, from the beginning, I understood that it is no point in trying to save X amount of animals if you're not going to do justice to that one animal. You know, I always tell people that, I mean, at WSD also we have space for X amount of animals. And if you're going to just keep taking in, you'll have high mortality and so it's no point. Of course, we'll try and do something for that. So there's a macro picture and a micro picture, but you can't ignore the micro picture just because of the macro picture, you know. Of course, I mean, over time, I've always said this, that, and it's sad, that I've had relationships with hundreds of street dogs, close relationships like you have had, or with Gattu, you know, where every time a dog passes away, I mean, a part of me dies. But then you need to move on because you have so many others that need the help, you know. So I think, you know, from that point of view.
So you were lucky, actually, I would say, because I didn't have that wisdom before. I was really involved in it and I had to become wise and tell myself, I can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
What about you, Antoine? Do you feel this frustration because you can't help every dog you find on the street or whatever?
No, and I've realized that I have a certain capacity to take care of dogs and to support dogs, and there's only so many dogs that I can keep in my house. And of course, I feel like, you know, I would like to have more dogs, but I know that I do travel a lot. I have a maid who's then responsible. She's only that strong. There's only so many dogs that she can take care of. If something happens, she gets injured, the dogs get injured, I'm not there, like, you know, it becomes a problem. So what I do instead is help other organizations like WSD and other places financially who have taken on that responsibility. So I think there are other ways to help out, even if you can't do it yourself.
Yeah, that's good. That's doable. But Roxanne, you're already doing what probably I would have done. I would have, you know, really, if I had my way and God had willed it, I would have had a land and brought in all the dogs. Yeah. And you're actually doing it. So let me share this. Recently, I gave her a dog and she came into, so I believe that every dog that comes into my lane has to stay there. Okay, and then I fought with everyone in the lane and it just took over my life again. And then I realized that she was very, very, how should I say, hostile towards human beings. And I realized that she wasn't very friendly with, she was friendly with children, but not human beings. And she was friendly with dogs, but certain dogs. And living in the lane became difficult and people started complaining, and then the corporator came in and I was wondering what to do about her. When I called her up and I said, I'm in a very I didn't want to, you know, they wanted to take her away and drop her off somewhere. I didn't want to do that, so I said, will you please take her in? You know, I really requested, and she did very kindly. But see, that's the thing, I feel that how many can you take in? And there has to be a limit, like he said, at a point. And how do you manage to have a cutting point, a cut point? How do you do it all?
I think it's waves, you know, they sort of tend to come in waves. And I concentrate on elderly dogs, handicapped dogs. Yes, we get our puppies and people dump, we get a lot in front of the gate. So I'm frantically sterilizing everybody till the point is no more puppies. You know, if puppies come, we know it's come from somewhere else. But I always say, if there's room on the sofa, there's room in the place. Any of you met a Great Dane? Yeah. Okay. You will have a full 7-seater sofa filled with Indian joint family. There'll be 2.5 inches. That Great Dane will fit in those 2.5 inches. And then you get an 8-foot by 8-foot bed and a chihuahua. And it will sleep right in the middle horizontally. Correct? So when there is room, I never understand people who have one dog. I would say, who's the dog supposed to speak to during the day? I mean, a pet dog spends 90% of its time waiting for somebody to do something. I have people who think, but I can put him in the cupboard. I'm going, no, you can't put him in the cupboard. You know, you can't put him, you know. Yeah, I don't quite say it that way, you know, but I'm a little bit more floral in my speech. But you see, the thing is, when the dogs arrive at my place, nobody has adopted them to that point, ever. I think I've had 10, 12 dogs in the last 10 years adopted out, and each of them have been a character. You know, we had Sherlock, who recently was in, Dogs and More as a best man at a wedding. We had, what's that horrible name? Chopsticks, he was called, but we changed it to Chops. Gorgeous looking dog, massive dog, hairy dog, and a wuss, an absolute wuss. So he makes so much noise running away that he scared off a whole lot of robbers. And then jumped on his owner's chest as she was sleeping like, "There are burglars in the house, hide me, hide me." So he went under the sheets. She had to get up and, you know, do things. So, but by the time they come here, nobody's adopting them. So I know they're not, I calculate that they're not leaving. You know, there's always somehow room. I sent you the photographs this morning of Whitey, and she follows the vet around.
Okay, that's good. Sweetie.
Sweetie, she follows the vet around. So she was trying to keep it, and he was trying to photograph, and she was trying to sit next to him, and he couldn't quite photograph. So it was good fun. They were having this little dance first thing in the morning.
That's yours. And I think, you know, taking from what Roxanne was saying is that there are two ends of the spectrum. When you said that, you know, when do people stop saying, let me take one more, let me take one more? And you hear stories and stories of people who take in so many dogs, and she was just telling about a lady who, in her words, dropped dead, and, you know, and with about, I don't know, 20, 30 cats, and then what happens to them? Yeah, people don't realize. Also, the other end is when somebody, you know, living in a 2 BHK, wanting a dog and saying, you know, my house is too small. And I say, I mean, are you going to live in a bungalow? And I give them this story of, you know, we used to be in a, I mean, WSD, we used to be housed near us in a slum in Mumbai, near Dhobi Ghat. And there was a 8x8 kholi. And there was this couple with 2 children, 3 dogs and 5 cats, all living there. And in fact, they had a dog called Dhoni. And Dhoni used to actually look after the husband used to go to work, I mean, the whole day, he used to be out from morning till night. And the wife used to be at home, but if she had to step out for some errand, you know, she used to leave the baby in with Dhoni looking after the baby, and of course she used to come back in half an hour. But that is, I mean, I say, you know, you need to have a place in your heart rather than a, you know, home. But of course, like he said, that you need to know your capacity of how many you can take in.
Yeah, that can get difficult when your heart is so big and your house is small. Yeah.
I look at it this way. I don't think a single one of my dogs would bite anybody coming in at an unregulated time. They would make a racket, but they wouldn't do anything. So my theory is switch off the lights, and with luck, the burglar will trip over them and break his neck. They're all lying there fast asleep, you know. The other theory is, if you can't walk in a straight line, then you must stop. But then I come from the Parsi community. Have you seen some of the houses? They're so full of furniture, you can't walk in a straight line.
Roxanne, I've never seen you walk in a straight line.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so you never had a straight line. I can see that 500 animals, you don't have a straight line.
Well, I mean, I have a bad reputation, it's true. People say, oh,
Yeah.
you look all comforting, nice little auntie till you open your mouth. You know.
Anyway, so coming back to this, so I want to know the topic power of the canine friends, you know. Do you think that they've created, I believe, like I've written a book called The Doctrine of Peace, which says that the dogs have so much power and we get so powerful in their company that we can attain world peace. That's my theory. In your life, have you ever experienced the power of a dog in your life? In the sense, it could be anything. It could be their presence, it could be their spirit, it could be anything that is unaccountable for or relatable to something that is practical or imaginable or whatever. Something beyond reasoning, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I must mention that my wife is petrified of animals, yeah, but not to a point where she would say that, I mean, it will be live and let live, where, so I think in a place like Mumbai where you're so involved, I mean, the fast-paced life that we are going through and so on. I mean, in terms of when I'm at a center, there's a huge difference in what I feel outside, even at home, to what I feel at the center, where you have, I think that really plays on you, the power of all these dogs. I mean, recently we had a dog called we called him Rustam, because of the fact that unfortunately his Parsi family owner passed away, and the police called us and said that the landlord wants to take the house back and there's nobody, and he was the only guy, and then we took him in, and he just follows all of us like a little lamb, because he must be definitely missing his owner. And we called him, I mean, because Parsi, so we just called him Rustam, not knowing, and nobody knew his name, So I think, from that point of view, the peace of mind, I think that one gets. I don't know if it's something out of, but something that we don't, I mean, I wouldn't get, somewhere else, So I think that is something that one really, has the dogs, have the dog, I mean, to thank for.
Definitely, when I agree. What about you, Antoine?
I think I'm single because I have 2 dogs. It's kind of, it's so comforting to be with them, and you just feel, you don't feel lonely. You just feel like, yeah, you're fine, that there's no problem, there's no issue. You don't feel a sense of absence in your life that you would feel earlier. But there's something more interesting that actually happened to me when my girlfriend actually moved in for the first time many years ago. And she didn't not like dogs, but she didn't particularly care about them, and was mostly disinterested in them. And of course, I had 2 dogs at that time, and Vodka was such a powerful and such a loving dog that she just snuggled up to my girlfriend in such a way, and that after that, and I have this really beautiful picture of both of them curled up around each other. And this was literally the first time that, she's staying with the dog, and she became a convert. And I said, like, I have never seen someone change in this way because of a dog. And that was really fantastic for me.
I think I have a similar story. My husband, Bipin, he's not here. Has he gone? Okay, then I can share the story. So he was petrified of dogs. So before marriage, when he used to come to my house, we had 3 Pomeranians who were ferocious and would snap and all that. And he used to sit with his legs up like that. So he was like an in-between animal caretaker, lover, whatever. So he had to convert because of me after marriage, saying, okay, I'll take care of dogs because you take care of dogs. But then we had this young little 2 pups right across the field. They were very weak, couldn't walk. We brought them in and we said, okay, let's give them up for adoption. Okay. But then whoever came for adoption wanted only one of them, and I wanted to give both of them together. So finally they of course stayed because nobody took them up and I didn't give them up. Now one of them, Tuggy, used to come and curl up on Bipin's feet. And Brownie used to sleep with him on the bed. At first he was uncomfortable because he had never done that. Gradually it was such a thing that I was sleeping in another room and those 2 were with him. So that's how it happens, and then afterwards, of course, life changed, and now he takes care of dogs more, and I'm traveling, and all I have to say is, Bipin mi challe, please zara laksha de dokhan kare, or tanza food de, or whatever. So it's like a total convert because of the dogs in our house, yes.
Yeah, but it's not just dogs, let's be quite honest. It's a lot of animals that have this power. And I have a couple of horses. We have the daft, good-looking racehorse. We have the old National Gold Awardee pensioner. We have ponies, we have donkeys, and I'm a donkey freak, let's be quite frank. Donkeys have right of way in my shelter, you know. No, the four-legged ones, you know, not the bank ones, you know, but it's all animals. I mean, I see, we have this very large horse, 480 kilos, but if a handicapped child is at the shelter, he will spot it, and he will be there, and he will be standing like a rock. So I've had cerebral palsy children when we on crutches and wheelchairs, sort of hanging onto his front leg, and you will find animals do that. They have no inhibition. Moments of wonder. Yeah, I guess it was like my husband who turned around one day and said, "I've had enough. Either the animals or me." And my children burst out laughing. And they said, "Seriously, Dad, you really expected to give up the animals for you?" And he left. And I haven't seen him for the last 20 years, you know. And as Antoine says, you are not using another human being to fill a gap. You know, "Oh, you complete me," is the normal saying, no? Aren't you completed by yourself? Why do you need another person to stuff holes in your holes, you know? You get exercise with dogs. Doesn't necessarily mean you get that with a partner, no, right? Yeah. But this is the whole point. It teaches you to be independent, to like. Nobody can do our lifestyle if you don't like yourself. None of us are in this line because we're searching for somebody to love us. We like ourselves, we like what we do, and we are not I don't know, I can't do it. I'm not sure you can't do it. You know, there's a version called kitty parties, no? And I'm standing there going, "What's that?" Oh, neat, and you know, till I discovered, yes, it's the way the women get money out of rich men because they simply don't have any money for themselves. And I thought, I can't do this, I can't. I did one kitty party and that was it. I went, "No, thank you, no, I can't do it." But as I said, it doesn't, dogs, some cats, not all of them, some cats, dogs, animals will teach you to be self-sufficient. Am I wrong?
No, you're quite right on that.
You know,
I mean,
you learn to be self-sufficient. I mean, people who come and go, "Oh, Cookie, so sweet." They don't last long at the shelter. They really don't. You know, you'll see the dogs go, "Let's get her," you know. Then are what I call the twitchers and the twerkers. Have you met twitchers and twerkers? You've never met twitchers and twerkers? "Oh, that's right. No, I'm scared. I get dirty," you know. So I love those, you know, because then I end up going, "Sit!" And the dogs are like, "What's she shouting about?" You know, "Sit!" She says, "No, I'm not." I said, "You're not scared." "No, I'm scared." I said, "No, you're not. If you were scared, you would be frozen stiff. You come from a generation where if you were well behaved, your parents ignored you. So the only time you got your parents' attention was to make a scene. And now you're trying to make a scene. I'm not your parent. Go sit in the car, stand outside the gate, but don't twitch and twerk and drive us all crazy. You know? So don't come to me and say, "Oh, I'm scared of dogs," you know. I mean, then it's your own fault, not theirs. Nobody's asking, they're not making you scared, you're scared by yourself. And I'm sure we've all dealt with these idiots, no?
Taking from what you said, Roxanne, have you ever actively tried to convert people into animal lovers?
What?
No, I'm asking you, have you ever tried actively?
no, never. I mean, like, either you love them or you don't. And like, if you don't.
No, not your near and dear ones. I mean, in society, you meet so many animal haters. Have you gone out of your way to change people?
Haters, they're bullies.
Yeah, but still haters.
No. If the dogs were taken out of the equation, they won't like the color of your shoes. They won't like the color of your hair. They don't like the way you dress. These are just bullies. There's got nothing to do with the dogs.
What about you?
I think, in this world, I think there are three kinds of people in terms of the animal loving or hating. There are maybe about 5% like us, who, can I convince you that dogs should be killed? So
Yeah.
so the fifth, the other spectrum, other end would be 5% who you can't convince that dogs should live.
Yeah.
So you can never ever convince them.
Yeah.
Just like I wouldn't be able to convince
Yeah.
you. But there's this whole 90, that whole bell curve business. But there's this 90% that are neutral and they go one way or the other depending on their experiences. I'll give you a short example. That somebody once called us and said that there are these dogs barking away and I can't sleep. So, sometimes at an animal welfare organization, you'll say, oh, you can't take in dogs bark, but Diwali, crackers and all that is okay. But that was not the point for that person. For that person, it was that, see, a lot of times when our children do things or our dogs do things, we say okay. But the neighbor's child does or
Yeah.
some street dog does, they say, oh, we don't like that. So similarly with this guy. So we said, okay, we send somebody and we realized the dogs were not sterilized. That's why they were barking away because of a female being on heat and all that. In fact, in another place, there was some antisocial elements and because of that they were barking, coming. So finally we got the dog sterilized. I forgot all about it. And the gentleman called me after 2 months and he said, thank you so much. Now the dogs are not barking. So you have actually converted a person who was neutral to start,
Yeah.
Maybe at least think of them. But I think, all of us, it's very difficult to change, right? If you are scared of something, it may not be dogs, snakes, whatever, crossing the road, being on an airplane, it's very difficult to change that. But children, so I think one needs to focus on children and the next generation, because we have a lot of schools that come to us and there are children who are scared. And we said, don't worry, you don't do anything, just watch. At the end of the visit, they don't want to go back. Because they see their peers, and once there were these 2 kids just sitting, like she said, frozen in our ambulance, where their classmates were walking dogs in the compound. And then they said, can you at least bring that dog and we'll pet it? And I say, yeah, of course. Because we didn't force them, let them watch. Because one knows that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think we are wasted.
If it has to happen,
we are
it will
wasted.
happen,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
the children, for everything, I think,
Yeah.
the environment, everything,
Everything.
the children are the future, and I
Future
think
for-
that's what we must focus
Yeah.
on.
We had an incident at our shelter.
Can I just, 1 second, how much money, how much time, not money? How much time do you have left? 10 minutes to end it? Okay, so then we'll have to take some questions from the audience quickly, if anybody has. Yeah,
I want to brief my incidents actually.
Yeah.
It is actually the power of Canine.
yeah, tell us.
So we were it's a story of a midnight. We were sleeping in one room, me and my husband.
It will be recorded. I was asking for
My
my
voice is quite loud
No,
that way.
for the video. So please repeat your question.
Yeah, so me and my husband were sleeping in one room and in an adjacent room.
Just hold it to your.
Okay. So my mother-in-law, who is 87 years old, she was sleeping in the neighboring room. So in the midnight, she fell down from her bed. We were faster asleep. We don't know what is happening. But my dog, it's a golden retriever, nice tall dog, he was barking continuously. And he made us wake up and go and attend her. So life-saving power they have.
So since
Sharing their experience.
we have only, no, before that, I just want to share, since you talked about changing people, I have a case study to share with you quickly because it's a very new thing for me. So there's this colony in Delhi, I forgot the name of the colony, but where Rajiv Mehrotra stays. And it's a huge colony with 500 buildings, apartments and all that. And there are many dogs and they used to create a ruckus. And as usual, 5% must be animal lovers, the others were not. So they decided to come together. They formed committees. One committee was to identify the dogs. The other committee was to find out why did the dogs bark in a certain area at a certain time. So they did this case study. The other committee decided to get the dogs in each of their, so 500 is like huge area. They got the dogs in their area sterilized. Then they decided to feed the dogs at a certain time, all of them. For that, they decided to have a common kitchen. And then they started making meals, and so now the other half used to take the meals every night or every afternoon and feed all the dogs. Now there's no barking, everyone is happy. And when I heard this, I was so amazed. It's the power of coming together for the dogs.
No, it's the power of a sensible secretary and chairman.
That too, but the others have to also, cooperate and want to do something about it. They can just say, just kill the dogs or remove the dogs. It's always
If
there.
you have a wussy chairman and secretary
Yeah.
who like to bully, then trouble happens. Now let me tell you a story with the Nizam of
We have
Hyderabad.
2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
Yeah, okay. After that, I would like to take it over.
Okay, so we had the Nizam of Hyderabad's cousin calling me. And he says, Madam, I don't know what to do. We live in a sort of a cul-de-sac. And the dogs lie on the cars and they're scratching the paint. And I'm going, it is an object. It's not a live thing. It's a car. And you get more scratches driving it through town than you will parked. So I said, look, take an old carpet, get it from the shop, just roll it over your car. So he did that. So what happened was all the dogs started sitting on his car. He didn't mind. Whole area CCTV'd. Then the robbers came, started smashing the cars, pulling out the speakers and this and that. And he says the trouble was they kept trying to file a case at the police and the police were laughing so much. So they said, look, watch the CCTV. You started throwing stones at the dogs. They're all sitting on his car. Has anybody stolen anything from his car? They are sitting there like this and watching all your cars get broken and like, So the police said, sorry, serves you right, And it is a fact that in Bombay, robbers would call up the municipality and say, these dogs are so loud and they're biting everybody.
Yeah.
You can't prove a single child being bitten. There is no medical certificate. But they're biting everybody, and the municipality would rush and pick up the dogs for 10-day observation. And the robberies took place.
Interesting. Thank you so much for an amazing discussion. I think we've touched upon many, many angles of dogs in our lives, and I don't think there's any replacement for dogs in our